Hi, I'm Josh Steimle. I'm the author of 60 Days to LinkedIn Mastery. And my worst advice, or my advice for entrepreneurs out there, potential entrepreneurs, is don't do it.
Don't. So do you wear Under Armour, not Nike, Josh? Is that what you're saying, or what's the context here, man? Talk to me about this.
When I went to start my first business, it was 1999. That was the year I had my last normal full-time job. And I went to my boss and I said, I'm going to quit and I'm going to go start my own business. And he said, don't do it. Don't do it. You'll hate it. It's the worst. And he's an entrepreneur and he's telling me this. And now 20 years later, I'm looking back and I'm like, he was on to something. It's tough. It's hard to be an entrepreneur. It's not for everybody. And people should take a serious look at it before they dive in, because it looks nice when you look at the magazines and everything, but you get into it and you're like, man, this is the worst. It's
So
also the
what's the
best.
worst part for you? What's the worst part for you? Because I would echo that advice, right? Anybody thinking of starting a business on their own, it is a lot of work and it's different work. So what's the worst for you, man?
The worst part of it, I mean, the best part of it is that you have control. Every day's interesting. There's always a new challenge. That's part of the worst part of it too, right? Is that every day there's a new challenge. You don't get any breaks. There's no vacation really. It's tough. But the worst part of it for me is when you're an entrepreneur, you end up owing other people money. You owe other people commitments that you've made to them. Sometimes you make commitments that you are unable to keep. I mean, it's easy for somebody on the outside to say, well, don't make commitments you can't keep. When you're an entrepreneur, you end up making commitments that later on you're like, I shouldn't have made that commitment, but at the time it seemed like a good idea. Now I can't keep it. It's impossible. The worst part, I think, though, is firing people. You hire people and then they don't work out, they're not getting the job done, or something comes up like a global pandemic and you have to let people go. I mean, that's the worst part, is seeing the look on people's faces when they're like, I trusted you. I thought you were going to take care of me, and now you're letting me go, or you're firing me. It's like, that is the worst. I hate that part of the business. I hate firing people, but if you're going to be an entrepreneur, it's something that you have to learn how to do. And
Yeah.
it stinks, but you still have to do it.
Yeah. Yikes. Yeah. I guess, yeah, I fired people in corporate America. So firing people as an entrepreneur actually is probably easier because I can actually give a real recommendation and connect them with someone like you. Say, hey, Josh, you got room for this person, as opposed to in corporate, you can't really say anything and because of HR and other stuff. So you can't help as much. So I agree with you. Right? A lot of the stuff as being a business owner, it's the best and the worst, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is the best and the worst. It's just like life. The more risk you take on, the greater the reward, but also the greater the failures when you have those.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So Josh, that's an interesting segue here into your book about 60 days to LinkedIn success here, because I see a lot of people writing either their best or their worst life on LinkedIn. They or and actually best. I don't know if you've ever seen best of LinkedIn on Instagram, but they talk about people. It's like fake kid Mondays. People that don't, that talk about their kids as though their kids are like Aristotle or something. So talk to me about what your philosophy is on there before we get into deep stuff on the book. I mean, do you think you should share everything, or what's your personal philosophy on sharing on LinkedIn?
My personal philosophy is that everybody's different, and so there's no one right recipe for everybody. Everybody has to figure out what works for them. And that depends on what somebody's goals are. So if you want to find a job versus you are an entrepreneur and you're trying to grow your business, or you're an executive and you're trying to recruit people or find business partners, you're going to have a different approach to that. If you're trying to get a job, I wouldn't advise sharing everything if you're trying to find a job, because you're going to turn a lot of people off. Now, you might connect with some people, but it's risky. If you're an entrepreneur, same thing. You can turn off clients, you can push people away. So the other day, I made a post about how in the middle of this pandemic, and we're talking about having vaccine mandates and everything right now. And so I did a post. I was like, hey, if you're getting laid off from your job, or you're being forced out because of a vaccine mandate at your job or something, let me know, because I'm hiring. And we run a virtual office. Most of our people work from their own homes, so I don't care if they're vaccinated or not, because they're just working from home. And I understand everybody has different reasons for being vaccinated or not vaccinated or whatever. Personally, I think the vaccines are great, but there might be somebody out there who has some sort of medical reason for not taking it. And I'm not here to judge. I just want to find good employees. And there are a lot of those people out there. So I posted this out there. And of course, I got a bunch of flack for it from people saying, oh, you're anti-vax and all this stuff, which I'm not. But that's the risk you take when you take a stand, which I wasn't really taking a stand. I was just saying, hey, come to me if you're looking for a job. But that just displays the risk that you take when you share opinions or ideas on LinkedIn. And there's something to be said for being transparent and sharing what you think or believe and taking a stand out there. But you just have to bear in mind that there are risks that come with that as well, that you can turn people off if you share literally everything. Now, when it comes to sharing the human side of you and your interests, I think that's great. I mean, every year I do a challenge for myself where I say, can I still do a kickflip on a skateboard? Because I'm a skateboarder. I grew up skateboarding. So every year on my birthday, I go out and I do a kickflip and film it. And then I post it on LinkedIn and say, all right, I'm 46 this year and I can still do a kickflip on a skateboard. That has nothing to do with LinkedIn, but that's always my most popular post of the year because everybody starts chiming in and saying stuff. And that humanizes me as a person. And I think other people should do that type of thing every once in a while when it comes to sharing.
Wow. So you're a skateboarder. So Tony Hawk, 53, still quite the skateboarder. So can you still ollie? Can you skateboard? I mean, what kind of skills you got? Is it just a kickflip, Josh?
Oh, I can do a few tricks. I've got an 11-year-old son too who's really into skating, so we go out and we go skating together. We actually ran into Tony Hawk 2 weeks ago at the airport, like randomly, like we saw him in the airport and said hi to him. That was kind of fun. But he's a lot better than I am, even though he's 7 years older than I am. He's amazing. He's doing really well for his age. I feel like if I can get out and I can do an ollie or a kickflip or ollie down 3 stairs or something, like I'm pretty happy with where I'm at.
Wow.
He's still doing McTwists and stuff, which is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, that is crazy. So did you play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, or were you a TNC surf design guy on the Nintendo? Or let's talk about that, and then we'll jump back to LinkedIn, man.
You know what? My parents didn't let me have video games very much when I was a kid, so I didn't get to play all these games. And then I found out in college that I have an addictive personality when it comes to video games. So like I think I played Quake once when I was in college, and like 6 hours later I stood up and I was like, I really probably shouldn't be doing this because 6 hours just went by and I've got to study and stuff. So,
Wow. Cool, man. So how did LinkedIn happen for you? Do you remember why you got started on LinkedIn and maybe your first success or failure?
yeah, I mean, I started 10 years ago, whatever. Whenever LinkedIn launched, I was on there and I put up my information and I saw it as kind of a resume database. Like, this is where you go and you put your resume. And then I just left it for years and I didn't really do anything with it. I didn't know what else to do with it. I would go there every once in a while as an employer, as an entrepreneur, and look for people and try to find somebody to hire or something. But that was about it. And then in 2013, I was writing for Forbes magazine and I thought, what would happen if I took one of my articles from Forbes and I posted that same content over on LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn had just acquired this company, Pulse, which is kind of a blogging platform. Now it's just called LinkedIn Articles. But I thought I could go post this content on LinkedIn. Let's do that. Let's see what happens. So I copied one of my Forbes articles, posted it on LinkedIn, which is totally legal. And I said, hey, this was first posted on Forbes, all that. But I posted it on LinkedIn and it got way more engagement than I got on Forbes. I mean, on Forbes, this article had been seen like 500 times. And on LinkedIn, it went to like 14,000 views and it had hundreds of comments and all these people were saying stuff. And I was like, whoa, like I'm getting way more value out of posting this content on LinkedIn where anybody can post versus Forbes magazine of all places. So I started posting more on LinkedIn at that time. And that's what got me started. That was the introduction to LinkedIn where I realized this is not just a resume database. This is a content marketing platform. And if I post content here, I can get a lot of attention for myself, for my business, and I can leverage that attention to turn it into clients or recruiting or finding business partners.
Wow, that's awesome. I remember when articles first came out too, man. That was like the golden days of LinkedIn when people actually got notified when you did good stuff. So cool, man. I totally remember and kind of miss those days. But yet at the same time, I think now it's the news feed, right? Now instead of articles, now we're posting status updates. So how has that affected, as you're someone who does some really good long form writing here? You published several books, right? You've got a lot of great stuff, man. So talk to me about how that kind of constraint has helped or hindered your writing.
Yeah, when it was nice. Back in the day, articles were great. You could post an article and it could go up to 100,000 or more views, and you could get literally thousands of comments on it. And then all of a sudden they changed the algorithm, and it was like one day to the next. It was 100,000 views one day, and the next day it was like 20 views. And it was like, whoa, wait, I was using that. And so I had to adjust. I had to figure out, well, can I still use this platform for my content? And what I learned was, yeah, it's all about the feed. It's about those short posts that you go in, and at the time they were limited to 1,300 characters. Now it's 3,000 characters, but they're still short. It's not a full-on blog post. And so I started doing those short posts, and I thought, well, hey, this is even better, right? Because I don't have to write a whole huge blog post. I can just do a short post. And so I started testing out different things with the posts, and I found out, hey, I can go viral using this too. And there were some posts that I wrote that each post was seen millions of times and got thousands of comments, and there was a lot of attention coming my way. And then they kind of changed that algorithm too, and then they said we're going to favor video. They introduced native video, and so I started doing native video, and I would get hundreds of thousands of views on that. It kind of seems like whatever works, once everybody figures out that it works, then LinkedIn like squashes it and says, well, no, people are getting too much attention. We've got to scale that back. I've even seen like Gary Vaynerchuk was getting like 500,000 views on his videos and tons of comments. I've noticed that even for him, things have scaled way back, and he's not getting near the attention he was on LinkedIn compared to a year or two ago, even though he's still getting a lot of attention, but it's not quite the Wild West gold rush that it was even for him a little while ago. But there's still all these opportunities because, yeah, I'm not getting quite the same level of attention I was a year or two or three ago. But if I go post something in the feed and it's crafted the right way, I'll still get enough attention. It's definitely worth it. So I keep on doing it.
So you talk about crafting it in the right way. Let's stay on content for just a little here, Josh. Why isn't it just you post it up, it's really good, and people like it? I mean, why is that not enough? Why is LinkedIn not just say, hey, yeah, this is really good?
Well, for example, if you're crafting a text post that's going to go into the feed, how do you hook people's attention? If you don't hook people's attention, they're not going to read it. If they don't read it, they're not going to comment on it. And comments are really the lifeblood of posts on LinkedIn. If you get a lot of comments, then LinkedIn looks at that and says, hey, this is interesting content. People are liking it. Let's show it to more people. And then more people see it, more people comment, and then that's how you get a post to go viral and get more attention. But there's got to be that hook at the beginning. And so one of the things that I do with a lot of my posts is to create that hook. I ask a question at the beginning of my post. And it's not a rhetorical question. It's a question where I'm saying, I really want your answer to this. I try to ask questions that compel people to answer because people feel like, ooh, I have an answer to that question and I've got to make my opinion known. So I ask that question at the beginning of a post. Then I explain what I'm asking about or why I'm asking the question. And then I ask the question again at the end of the post just to prompt people, hey, I want your comments. I want to hear what you have to say. And then when people comment, I go in there and I'm responding quickly to their comments. I'm trying to get into discussions. If we can get going back and forth in those comments, then the comment count just keeps going up and up and up. And then LinkedIn just starts sharing that post everywhere in everybody's feeds. So that's a simple little tactic that plays into the LinkedIn algorithm and results in you being able to get more attention for your posts. It's not enough to just have good content. The content needs to be formatted in such a way that it prompts people to react and comment, and then it feeds into the LinkedIn algorithm.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that work for sure. I really like that you mentioned the question that you actually want people to answer, not some rhetorical question, then repeating it at the end, reminding them that you still want their feedback on that. Really, really powerful stuff that a lot of people don't do. They focus on themselves. So why, you know, what have you gained, Josh? Is before we go too deep into the book, because it's a great book, by the way. It's not. I don't believe it's out yet. 60 Days of LinkedIn Mastery, but you're nice enough to let me read an early copy and review it. What's the payoff? Going viral for viral's sake is not it, man. What do you get? I mean, what have you seen? What have you seen your clients get? Because I know you help with this.
Yeah, the payoff is this goes back to everybody when they're first starting on LinkedIn or they're starting to think about putting out content. The question everybody should ask is, why am I here? What's my purpose? What's my reason for being on LinkedIn? If you don't have a good answer to that, then your strategy is not going to work. It's like Alice in Wonderland. Like, where are you going? It doesn't matter which road you take if you don't know where you're going. So first of all, everybody needs to find a purpose on LinkedIn. When I go on LinkedIn, I often have different purposes from day to day or from moment to moment. One moment, I'm trying to find somebody to hire for one of my businesses. The next moment, I'm looking for a partner for one of my businesses. The next moment, maybe I have a question about, hey, does anybody know of a software tool that can solve XYZ problem? So every time I go on LinkedIn, I've got a different purpose, but then I've got my kind of overall purpose, which for me, a lot of that is personal brand building, because I know that if I build up my personal brand and I build up more of a following on LinkedIn, then no matter what need I have, it's going to be easier to satisfy when I go onto LinkedIn. So when I do need to hire somebody, I can put out something and say, hey, I'm looking for a digital strategist for my marketing agency, MWI. Well, if I have 50,000 followers, I'm going to go get more reactions to that post and more potential leads than if I only have 500 connections or followers. So the more I build my personal brand, the more people know me, like me, trust me, the more I'm going to get in terms of benefit for everything, no matter what I want to do. And that could be finding a job, finding a client, recruiting somebody, finding a business partner. Any of these things is going to be easier if I've spent time building up my personal brand.
Yeah, I find the same thing is true, and that's great advice, Josh. So 60 days though feels to when I have to tell you when you first said I've got this book leveraging LinkedIn mastery in 60 days, I'm like, come on, really, like 60 days, man. But I read the book and
yeah.
no, well, no. I would actually
it was
argue,
too short or too long of a time
yeah,
period?
too short, right? Too short.
Okay.
And I would, yeah, no, well, yeah, 1 week. Come on, Josh. I've been on LinkedIn as long as you, man. I know that's BS, right? Well, that's right. But a lot of people would say, wow, in only 2 months, I could have LinkedIn mastery. So what does mastery mean to you as you define it for the book? And then I'll ask some questions about some of the pieces of it that you brought forth.
Well, there's the relative definition of mastery, meaning you're better at it than most people out there. And then there's also the absolute definition of mastery, which is I can use this to do the things that I want to get done. And the book is the answer to both of those things. If you go through this book, it's 60 lessons. It's divided up into 60 days, so you can do one each day, and you can get these lessons. You can read it, and then you can implement the homework I've given or the activity with each of these tips. You can do all of that in 15 minutes or less. Some of these, it's 5 minutes or less. So you go through these 60 exercises, these 60 lessons. At the end of 2 months, you're going to know more than 99.99% of the people out there on LinkedIn, because most people are not using LinkedIn correctly. And if you do use it correctly, then you have an advantage. You can stand out, you can get more done, you can do the things that you want to do. And that's the other key is if you go through all these lessons, you're going to be set up to accomplish whatever your purpose is on LinkedIn so much more easily. You're going to be able to find the job, recruit the person, grow your business, do marketing, do sales, whatever it is you need to do on LinkedIn through these 60 lessons, because LinkedIn is not that complicated of a tool. There are lots of pieces, there are lots of things you can do, But once you have the lay of the land, you have a basic understanding of things, it's pretty easy to figure out, okay, if I want to go find somebody, I should do a post like this in the feed. Now, if you're starting from scratch, maybe that's hard to know, but you go through this book and it just tells you that, and it gives you examples of what you can post, and then it's easy. You say, oh, okay, that makes sense, I'll go do that. The hardest part with figuring out something like LinkedIn is often not knowing whether we're doing it right or not, and so we try it 20 different ways until we figure out the right way to do it. This book is the shortcut to just say, if you want to do X, then do Y. There you go. You don't have to do 20 experiments. The book's just telling you exactly what to do.
Yeah. Awesome. Super simple. So, one of the points you make in the book is about slaying the same dragon every day, which was one of the surprising chapters to me. So, especially as you mentioned, hey, I've got different purposes every day. So, how does that work, Josh? Talk to me about slaying the same dragon every day.
Yeah, this was some advice that I got from a Forbes editor when I was writing there. He said the best writers are going out and slaying the same dragon every day, meaning they're staying on topic, they're staying focused. So when I started on LinkedIn, I just kind of wrote about whatever I wanted to write about. I did the same thing when I started writing for Forbes too. Whatever was interesting to me that day, I wrote about it. So one day on Forbes, I was writing about the new app that Jay-Z was coming out with and how he launched it the wrong way. And the next day I was talking about net neutrality. And the next day it was entrepreneurship. And the next day it was marketing. I was all over the place. And so nobody knew who I was. But once I started writing about only marketing, because after all, I was running a marketing agency. So I started talking about marketing. Then I started to develop a personal brand as, oh, Josh, yeah, he's that marketing guy who writes on Forbes. Then I started to get leads from my agency because I was known as the marketing guy. It's the same thing on LinkedIn. What do you want to be known for? Whatever you want to be known for, you've got to focus on that. That doesn't mean 100% of the time. Maybe it's 90% of the time. Maybe it's 80% of the time. Because there is that bit like posting yourself skateboarding or whatever that isn't on brand necessarily, but it still humanizes you. And so it's good to put that in there. But most of your time should be spent talking about the one thing that you are focused on. I like to call it your genius zone. It's that intersection of skills and knowledge and experience that makes you special and unique. And when you focus on that genius zone, it's easy for you to talk about. You've got tons of experience and material that you can draw on. And then people get to know you as, oh, he's the such and such guy, or she's the such and such gal. And then it's easy for people to refer business to you. It's easy for people to know when to hire you and what you actually do. And so that focus can really help you get the results that you're after on LinkedIn.
Excellent. I like that advice a lot, and I think it's super helpful and a good reminder. So with that though, don't we want people to connect with us on LinkedIn? I mean, one of your chapters is about turning on creator mode, which basically says, I don't really want to connect with you. I just want you to listen to me. Talk to me about creator mode and how that's helpful, or how maybe that's not.
Yeah, so when you turn creator mode on, one of the things it does is it changes that connect button to a follow button. So if somebody clicks on follow, then they're following you, they're going to see your posts and everything, but you're not actually connected. And so yes, I would say you want to build up your connections first as a priority versus building a following. However, people can still connect with you even if you turn on creator mode. It's just not as easy, it's not as obvious. And also, if you have it set up that way, then you're going to screen out a lot of the spam that's out there. So when I started on LinkedIn, and I, of course, started from zero, just like everybody else, first, I connected with everybody I knew. All the people that were in my email list, all the people I knew offline, I went and found those people and I connected with those people because I knew that they would accept my connection because they know me, right? Then I started connecting with people that were in my industry or people that I wanted to be connected to, but they weren't necessarily my ideal audience. They weren't the clients I was going after. And finally, I ended up in this position where I started connecting with the people that I wanted to sell to, the people that I thought I can serve these people, they can serve me, we can have a mutually beneficial relationship because they can be a client or something like that. And I started going after those people. And eventually I reached the cap. LinkedIn only allows you to have 30,000 connections. Well, only 30,000. But you can actually get there pretty quickly if you focus on it for a year or two. So I reached that 30,000 cap. At that point, I have no other option but for people to follow me. I can't connect with anybody else unless I boot somebody else off of my connections. And so once you reach that level, definitely creator mode makes all the sense in the world, because you are at that level where you are engaging in thought leadership, you're broadcasting content more. So if you're below the 30,000 cap, I would still consider creator mode if you are getting a lot of spam requests, and if you want to be a little bit more selective about who you connect to, and you want to initiate the connection rather than just anybody and everybody connecting with you. However, you can also go into creator mode and turn it on, and you can switch that follow button back. So you can have creator mode for other reasons. Now, right now, creator mode doesn't do all that much. It switches the follow button. It gives you some hashtags that you can put in your profile. It's more about the future, really, of what creator mode holds, which hopefully is more tools for content creators to get their content out there, to create better, more compelling content. That's what I'm looking forward to. So right now, I would say I put it in the book because it is this new thing. I don't think it's a critical thing to turn on right now. I would if you are creating a lot of content, but you could say, I'm not going to do it right now, I'll do it later. That's fine too. However, keep an eye on creator mode, because what's coming down the road in the next year or two is probably going to be more compelling in terms of value to content creators.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I like that definition of creator mode as something that, might be even more valuable in the future than it is now, thinking forward instead of just thinking about right now. And that starts with finding your purpose. So I like the way you tied that up, Josh. If there's one other day of the 60 days that you think people should focus on? I know they should focus on all of them. Don't say that, but pick one that you think, maybe this is a hidden gem here that maybe people might overlook, but they shouldn't.
I think towards the end of the book, I start giving some tips that are a little bit less tactical or specific about, hey, go here and do this, and more about attitude or mindset. Because there's this saying, I think it's Godwin's law, that says that when a metric becomes the target or the thing that you're focused on rather than a way to measure progress, then it's no longer useful. That idea that you can end up on LinkedIn and start playing this game with the algorithm where you end up focusing on likes and comments and all these numbers and the analytics, that's not the point of LinkedIn. If you're just focused on those things, you're going to lose track of your purpose and the reason you're there in the first place. And why do we go on LinkedIn? The vast majority of people, I've done polls on LinkedIn, I've collected hundreds, maybe thousands of responses. And when I ask people, why are you on LinkedIn? What do you want out of this? Everybody, I mean, not everybody, but the vast majority of people say, I'm looking for meaningful relationships. That's the real goal. And if that's the real goal, then yes, you can focus on likes and comments and creating good content and all those things. But remember, it's a means to an end. It's not the end in and of itself. The meaningful relationship is the end. And if you're going to develop a meaningful relationship with people, there's got to be that love. There's got to be goodwill. You've got to like the people that you're working with. If this is all a numbers game and it's just all about the transaction, that's going to come through in your content, in the way that you interact. People are going to sense it, and they're going to leave you. They're going to say, hey, this guy's only using me to get what he wants. But if you're in it for the relationship and to serve other people and be served, give and take, like Adam Grant says in his book, but if you're there for the right reasons and you really want to help people, that's going to come through and people will sense that. So that goodwill, that love for other people, I think is the key. If you've got that, you'll figure everything else out.
Awesome. Find your purpose, find your love, and be you. Good stuff, Josh. So if folks want to find you, they can't connect with you on LinkedIn, but they can certainly follow you, of course. But where can we find the book, and where else would you like them to connect with you?
So the book is on Amazon right now. It's up for pre-sale. It's on sale right now for 99 cents for the Kindle version. It's 60 Days to LinkedIn Mastery, so you can search on Amazon and find that. And also my personal website, joshsteimle.com, JOSHSTEI, M as in Mary, LE.com. Everything's over there. And of course, on LinkedIn.
Of course. Great stuff. So get the pre-sale 60 days of LinkedIn mastery. Go to joshsteimle.com. Josh, lots of great insights today, my friend. I'm glad your camera was right side up. I'm glad you made time for us. Thanks, man. Good stuff.
Thanks so much, Phil.
Absolutely. And thanks everyone for watching, for listening. Get connected on LinkedIn. Have a great day.